Joining us in the room, and there's your warning. Your participation is your consent to being recorded, so thank you, Bryce, for hitting that. Always helps us for developing the minutes and keeping track of everything that's discussed. And then, has been our model, since COVID, we'll post audio recording only of the meeting on our website, make it available for anybody that cannot be present or anyone from the public. So everyone has their fair warning on the recording, and so we'll call the meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda is the public forum. Before that, I'll just make an announcement or two before we entertain any items that are on the agenda anyone wants to cover. One being our first attendance here in the room, I think, is Program Center representative from Justin Batchick, formerly the District 3 staff, is now with the Planning and Program Center out of Central Office, and glad to have you on board. And Justin knows the region well, having worked in District 3 and being the Northern Tier RPO liaison representative for a number of years. So glad to have you join us in the room, Justin. And I think, Eric, you said this is the first time you've been to our office. Eric Berniak is the ADE, Assistant District Executive for Design at District 2, and glad to have you here and present with Mark, our typical compadre for many years now.
Yep.
Anyone else in the room that this is your first meeting? I don't think so. Bob's a newer member. We're glad to have you as the multimodal interest and been working with us for a number of months now, even through the strategic plan year up, and we're glad to have you as well. We have several folks joining online. They're a little bit newer on our either interested parties list or might be their first ever meeting of the MPO. Is there anyone that would want to unmute and introduce yourselves today to the membership at all? If so, feel free to do so.
I'm sorry, Steve. My name's Dan Merck. I'm the Transportation Program Director for STEP, and we cover Lycoming and Clinton counties.
Thank you, Dan.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Eisman. I'm with the Pennsylvania Silk Statewide Independent Living Council and the Transportation Alliance. And when we do public comment, like a couple minutes. Thanks.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Rachel Hobbs. I'm one of the new Northeast planners, local government planners with DCED, along with Chris Chapman, who's also on the meeting.
Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Rob Watts with McCormick Taylor. We are just kind of sitting in today. Transportation planner. We've worked with Steve and previously Jim Saylor on projects for the MPO.
Thanks, Rob.
Good morning. This is Frank Hampton, PennDOT Central Office. Formerly, we used to work with you guys now, and now we're turning it over to Justin Batchick. So be gentle. He's new.
Thanks, Frank.
This is Chris King with PennDOT District 3. You all were pretty used to having John Rank represent the district. You'll probably see more of me in the future at these meetings. So hopefully I can keep John's high standards held high.
For sure.
Good morning, everyone. Matt Wise, District Director for Senator Gene Yaw. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Vince Filovich with Erdman Anthony. I'm just kind of listening in as well here. We do a lot of work up in the area there, especially with PennDOT District 2. So it's a pleasure to be chiming in and just listening in to see what's going on.
Great. Well, thank you all for that. If there are any others, I'll just make another couple of staffing announcements. If you recall, Michelle Ballou was our program assistant and had resigned. We acknowledged at the last meeting, but we're glad to report we have a new program assistant starting on Monday, Christine Heinzelman. And so you'll see future communications and notices coming from her. We'll put an announcement out next week with official details for you, but we're excited to have her join and add her skill sets to our team. Gerald Lee Ziegler is also joining us here today, and we've been glad to partner with her on some resiliency planning matters of late, and so she's supporting MPO tasks through that in our work program. And also Frankie Hockenbrock, several of you know, has been working with us on active transportation and public transportation matters. So we're pleased to have his involvement with the MPO. And those of you staying for the County Planning Directors meeting, yeah, he'll be in the room for that. We also have a new communication and marketing coordinator that was hired in March. So Nancy Osborne is her name, and she's going to be helping round out a lot of our communications, you know, supporting newsletters and press releases, social media, and that type of activity. So we're glad for those updates and announcements to share here today. One thing I'll mention, the packet had circulated on Monday this week, and there was a change with bulk emails that go out to 50 or more contacts. So we're now using Constant Contact. Hopefully it arrived at your inboxes. If any of you didn't receive it, let me know. We can try and troubleshoot or overcome that. But that'll be our method in the future for MPO notices, the packet, and other communications, since our list is 80 or more people for these meeting notices. So we'll be using Constant Contact to share that in the future. So just reach out if you didn't receive that on Monday, and we'll try and work around it. Those are the items I wanted to mention up front as far as announcements and introductions. Is there anything not on the agenda that anyone wanted to present today as part of the public forum?
Hi, this is Jeff from Pennsylvania Silk Transportation Alliance. I think since our last meeting, the governor's budget came out, and he proposed a little over $282 million for the first year, and it's over $1.42 million for 5 years for public transportation programs, which would help STEP and Rabbit and other River Valley to provide public transit. So I believe there's an increase of, I think, 5% for some of the paratransit, like the shared ride and things of that nature, and also additional money for Amtrak route expansion. They're looking up at Allentown, Scranton, Reading, and a few other places, and I think an additional route on for the route going west of Pittsburgh, and some of the studies there. But if you're interested, if public transit and transportation is your interest, this is probably the most robust funding increase proposed by any governor that I can think of. So they had the state budget hearings. I think it was mostly receptive. There were a few that did have questions about the parity of funding and things like that, but so it'll be very interesting. And I know Rabbit in both York and also up in Bloomsburg joined PennDOT Secretary Mike Carroll for a couple of events supporting that. So just wanted to mention that. I could drop some information in the chat too. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Anything additional that folks wanted to share in the room or online that we don't have the agenda? Feel free to do so. Okay. Thank you. Hearing none, our next order of business, item C on your agenda, is approval of the January 26th meeting minutes. Those are in your packet beginning on page 3. For those of you in the room or following online with your document, are there any questions or discussion on the minutes from January 26th? If not, we would look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I saw a hand by Greg first. I'll give you that motion, and second for Sean. Thank you both. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. The minutes are approved. They'll be uploaded to our website after today's meeting. Next is our normal item D, our regular core business of reviewing and considering the TIP modifications. There's some administrative actions in there for District 2 and District 3, and a couple of amendments. Beginning on page 10 of your packet, or actually page 9, are the District 2 fiscal chart for some amendments. And Mark, if you're okay to run down through those. One of them was already approved by Federal Highway, so we won't need a vote, but 2 of the 3 in District 2, we'll look for votes today to approve those amendments. And Mark, thanks for giving us the rundown and background on them.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, page 9, we're looking at regional HSIP safety funds that were added to the TIP. We have a couple locations that were identified for Seven Mountains and on SR 35 and Juniata as well. So the first amendment has those have been approved safety projects for use of HSIP and looking to move forward with that. These areas were identified as HFS is high friction surface treatment. This is a increased friction substance that's put onto the roadway to keep trucks on the road, cars on the road, identified on Seven Mountains as a potential interest to reduce lane departures on the curves in that area. Do you want to vote on each one of these individually, or?
Sure, yeah, if you don't mind, we'll close there. Are there questions, comments for Mark on these safety projects with the high friction surface? Okay, if not, we would look for a motion to approve as presented the amendment for the high friction surface treatments.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Brad. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nathan, for the second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Thank you. And next is page 10. And this is one that Frank, you informed us, Federal Highways had already approved this earlier in March. So it's an informational item, but if you could cover those high friction surface projects as well, Mark?
These are also high friction surface areas identified as lane departures as well. These were additional funds, discretionary funds on the HSIP SEDA side. So these are in addition to the Transportation Improvement Program for SEDA COG. And from there, we'll move to page 11. And on page 11, we have also safety funds that have been added to the TIP, regional HSIP funds for Juniata County, SR 22. There was an incident on 22 some time ago, and we're looking at cable medium barrier. This location's been identified as a location that we can put in the high tension cable medium barrier as a safety measure to eliminate traffic, eliminate crossing of vehicles from one eastbound to westbound or northbound to southbound. So this has also been a HSIP safety approved project, and we'll be looking for your approval to move forward with this project and this project interest.
Just a quick question on that. Are the cable medium barriers essentially all being identified and constructed on interstates and US routes? Are they looking at any additional routes, or are they essentially geared toward those locations right now?
At this time, it's mostly the higher speed, the interstate and the interstate-like with limited access. But at this point, Steve. And this is a single location. Many times our cable medium barrier projects have multiple locations with multiple end anchorage placements. This will be a single location for single installation.
Thank you, Mark. Any additional questions? If not, we would look for approval of the cable medium barrier installation project coming out of the regional HSIP allocation.
Motion to approve.
Jim, thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Brad. Thank you. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you, Mark. Then the rest are the normal administrative actions and modifications beginning on page 12. And any you want to characterize or describe, Mark?
The first one we have on there for the Stop 35 to Sheets area, we had significant program funds. We were coming out of COVID, coming out of inflation factors, coming out of a change of scope. We had held program funds on this project until after the bid, so that we didn't have to make a second and or a third adjustment. So we recognized as far as a bid, once we received the bid for that project, that we had extra program funds. We moved those program funds out to support a need on a group resurfacing project for some slope stability locations. They're going to be rebuilding And then we also put some funds towards the Hogan Boulevard and Mill Hall area, looking at a drainage study for that area and possibly incorporating some future interests in that area for the safety concerns that are out there. So that's a large one. On page 13, we had again, slope stability interest there to add funds to that project for the final estimate. And then at the bottom of that page for the 75 bridge over Juniata River, that was a reimbursement agreement for that hit, an insurance claim. And we had a low bid cost savings on that. We were able to move funds out of that project and back to the reserve line item. On page 14, we had a number of different agreements and adjustments for invoicing. And let's see here if I can keep up. Moving out to adjustments for consultant engineering agreements, approval of HSIP funds, and probably moving down to the River Road Railroad warning device on it. I believe is your page 16. That is a completed project in which we were moving funds back out of the railroad warning device and the safety funds that are statewide allocated for those. So are there any questions on any of these administrative actions for use? We do this as a use of funds so that we can distribute throughout our counties and make sure that we're balancing not only for the projects, but for the project needs within the region.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that update, and thanks for the Hogan Boulevard. As we learned in some of the prior analysis there, that you're putting that in for the drainage and then looking ahead at potential safety upgrades. So thanks for your approach to that. Any other questions or comments from Mark on the administrative modifications? If so, is there a motion to approve them as presented?
So moved.
Greg, thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bob, thank you. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great, thanks for the updates, Mark. District 3 modifications begin on page 19 of the packet, and there is one amendment here that's included as well. Chris, are you prepared and okay to run down that amendment?
Yep.
And then the District 3 modification.
Yep. So the amendment it's about halfway through the District 3 materials. It is incorrectly noted as an administrative action, but in the narrative you can see amendment. And this is simply to add the Shamokin Independent Streetscape project to the SEDA COG tip. These funds were awarded to Shamokin as part of the 2022 Consolidated Appropriations Act. The project is essentially a streetscape on Independent Street in Shamokin. All phases are currently programmed. I think we'll probably only get to PE on the current tip. It's kind of fast tracked. The project does need to be completed before the expiration of the act in 2026. So we will be working with them to get this delivered. I don't know if anybody has any questions. The project is also being administered on behalf of Shamokin by another wing of the SEDA COG folks. So.
Yeah, those of you know, Betsy Kramer's been very active and has a lot of great successes within the city of Shamokin, and they were able to work through Congressman Muser back to get this in the appropriations as an earmark or congressionally designated project. And so we're glad to see that moving forward. And program now in the tip, and thanks for facilitating that, Chris. We appreciate it.
But the rest of the administrative actions are all very minor. If you read through them and have any questions, feel free to reach out to me now, after the meeting, whenever. They're pretty self-explanatory. There's one on there where, as a procedural issue, we do need to add to show that Northumberland County is using they're using Act 13 funds to cover their local match on a couple of local bridges, and the Act 13 does require that to be noted on the regional tip. So it's not of any funding effect on SEDA COG, but it's required to show those funds. So that's the only really oddball action in there.
Yeah, that's page 26. For those you following along, you can see a variety of those, the local funding being Act $13 there. So thank you, Chris.
You bet.
Are there any questions for Chris? We'll take the amendment first, page 19 for the City of Shamokin Independence Street earmark funds coming onto the tip. Any questions on that one or discussion? If not, we'd look for a motion to approve as presented.
Make the motion, Steve.
John, thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mark, thank you. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you. And the latest round of those earmark requests, if you were following along, I think they were due the end of March. So I know there are a few sponsors within the region that were working on those, submitting them to their federal legislators. So if any of those come through this kind of process and are awarded, you might see those at a future meeting to be added to the tip as well. So when those solicitations come out, sometimes it's a quick turnaround to get those submissions in the federal legislators, but if any do take effect within our region, you might see those at a future meeting. And then for the District 3 administrative actions, modifications, are there any questions or comments? Great.
Yeah, Chris, just a question on the project, SR 54 under Market Street, 107128. Could you enlighten me on what that project is inclusive of?
Yep, let me just look for it. What was the action number? Or what?
It's page 27 of the packet, Chris. That'd be the action ID 134271. For SR 54, section 095 under Market Street.
Project number's 107128.
Yeah, just looking it up right now.
Okay.
So that's the tunnel.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, that definitely is. We did have a project to do some waterproofing of that. I'm not sure if that's what this is or if this is a pavement project. Just looking right now.
The only reason I'm asking,
Yeah,
we've had a lot of conversation with residents asking me what's going on with that, and I have no clue.
Yeah, this is a project. We have some leakage, basically through the cut and cover, I guess is what we call it. So this is just it's a project that we programmed to mitigate that. I'm not sure exactly how they're planning on doing it. I think it's some sort of epoxy. I can get some more details from the bridge unit to you, Greg, but
If you could, or have them contact me personally so I can get an update. We were asked for plans for the original tunnel cut through that was placed there. And I can find nothing in the county records as a plot plan, developmental step procedures, nothing that came through the county at all. And I understand this is a PennDOT project and was from the beginning, but I'd like to have some kind of narrative or design information that I could share as needed.
You mean from the original project or?
The original all the way up through what this project now is entailing. I have nothing on file in the county offices.
Okay, yeah, the original plans, I'm sure, I mean, that's gonna be a pretty massive document, but we can, I'm sure, share them with you, so.
Well, like I say, you can get up with me on the side, later date, that's fine. I just, I've been getting questions lately and had no
About
idea.
questions about, like,
Well, the questions that I've gotten, just recently is, do you have copies of the original plan when it was put in? The second question is, we're having a lot of noise and vibration caused by the traffic flow through. The third question is, we've seen PennDOT individuals out there surveying for a project and no one seems to know what's going on. And when they come to me, I really don't know.
yeah, if they're out there surveying now, it's for this project, which again is to come up with a way to mitigate this seepage into the culvert. So, but in terms of all the other documents, we'll make sure we get them to you, Greg.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
And we're showing, I think, a let date for this is October 2025. So it's a little, ways out, not real direct.
Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you, Greg. Any other questions for Chris? If not, is there a motion to approve the District 3 administrative actions as presented?
So moved. Second. We got you.
Yeah, okay.
This corner's keeping things moving.
Great, we'll give the motion to Greg and the second to Sean. Thank you. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you. I wasn't sharing the screen, but I brought this up on the web map. I know we highlight that in the packet, but you'll see the basic details on these adjustments, when you visit the tip modifications web map and where the funds are coming from. And we always put the estimated construction costs and the let date right in there as well. You don't have to go out to other systems and refer to that. So again, if you have any things you'd like to see reflected in that, let us know. And Bryce has done a great job enhancing and really making that a valuable piece to what we do with the MPO meeting. So thank you. Thanks for all the discussion, the comments, and the approvals on the administrative modifications and amendments. In the packet, we usually report on some other things here, and that's page 29. Things have been considered, approved for adding to the tip, based on some other actions that would have to occur on funding or other decisions. And our typical ones we've been, following here is the State Route 42 and SR 4003 Frosty Valley Road project in Columbia County. Again, page 29. If you recall, there was safety concerns there. We weren't able to get that as an HSIP project from the regional allocation or statewide, but with land development along that corridor and traffic impact studies and highway occupancy permits, it was assigned to the developer as a requirement for mitigation to put a signal in there and left turn lanes. So saw the press releases from District 3, and the contractor was supposed to begin work on the intersection improvement on April 1st. I haven't driven up there lately, but I'm assuming that had started. And the work on the project will include the road widening, addition of the turn lanes and the traffic signal, and expected for completion this summer. So glad to see that benefit come there for that area in Columbia County on Route 42. Next are our two local access road projects, one in Selinsgrove Grove Borough for the Industrial Park Road. There were some cost increases there, but just recently, CFA, DCED Multimodal Fund approvals came out, and they were awarded $130,000 in extra multimodal funding as part of that. Environmental clearance is expected here in April for that project, and the estimated let date is early next year. We were checking in with Aaron Chris, local projects coordinator, and he was able to give us those status updates on the timing, so things are coming together there. The next one is kind of stalled, unfortunately. That's the Milton Borough access road project for Marsh Road, and the design has been placed on pause until the funding shortfall is addressed. And if you recall, they were in for the TA set aside for the most recent round, mitigation for the toad, spade-foot toad, to get across that area. And there's other needs and some issues there, but that's on hold for now. Any questions on those projects or anything additional? Okay, if not, we're up to the normal reporting under item E. Our most significant projects cost-wise in the region being the Central Susquehanna Valley Transportation Project and the State Route 54 Safety Project in Montour County. So, Chris, are you able to share updates on southern section projects and also for the Route 54 Safety Project?
Yep. In terms of Route 54, the MPDES permit was just approved last month by DEP. The ENS plan had been approved by the County Conservation District, and we had some modifications to stormwater management design that were needed. I think you may have heard this the last meeting. We had a update meeting with the CAC last fall, which included a update on the final design progress and a review of how the project would be built. Once the project is bid, the contractor is going to be responsible to then have another meeting with the public on their anticipated construction sequencing. Currently, we're looking at an August letting. We have, due to the type of funding amount and the innovative design, we did need special approval from FHWA on the final design, which we did receive in January. Our focus right now is on right-of-way negotiations with 2 farm properties in the project area from which right-of-way is required. If we can't reach an amicable solution with these properties, then we would need an ALCAB hearing to obtain approval from the board to condemn those properties. So that's kind of our focus right now is that negotiation. Any questions on that one before I move to CSVT?
Just do you have a rough estimate on maybe when the community action or advisory committee will meet again?
I mean, it'll be up to the contractor to schedule it. So my guess would be, over the winter.
Thank you.
Late fall, early winter. And in terms of CSVT update, with regard to the earthwork contract, it's about 70% complete. Should be completed this summer. Park Road and Colonial Drive, for those that haven't been down that way, were completed last fall. Fisher Road is currently being realigned to its new intersection with Park Road. Fisher Road's closed. New Fisher Road is supposed to be open to traffic this spring. There's 2 roundabouts that are partially open at Mill, App, and Airport Roads. 2 of the 3 approaches are open. The connector between the roundabouts with Mill Road that was delayed. We ran into some soil conditions that affected operations through there. But we do think that we will have that all open by the end of the month. In terms of the structures contract, the bridge that's carrying the new road over Granger's Road is under construction. The foundation's being built right now for the bridge that carries the Cortland Drive connector over the 61 connector. And then also for the bridge that carries the 61 connector over the 11 and 15 ramps. I think we anticipate starting foundation construction for the bridge over 11th Avenue later this spring. So overall, there's 9 bridges and 4 noise walls in this contract. They won't be totally all completed until 2025. In terms of the southern section paving contract, still in final design and plans preparation. The right-of-way plan is to be completed this spring for the interchange areas, particularly the southernmost interchange at 522 and 11 and 15. We're working with the utilities on relocation plans in those interchange areas. And also working on permit applications for interchange areas for impacts to streams, wetlands, and floodplains. This paving contract, we're looking at late 25 or early 26 to let that. And as we've been saying, the main line southern section highway is anticipated to be open to traffic in 2027. Work that's impacting 11 and 15 and Shamokin Dam will be completed once the main line is open, when a lot of the traffic volume will be over on the new road. So the 61 connector then would be open to traffic in 2028. And that's all I had for CSVT.
Thank you, Chris. The comprehensive update, lots of activity and progress being made in the southern section now, so thank you. Any questions for Chris? Okay, if not, we'll have that regular reporting again at the next meeting on the status updates for both those projects, well exceeding $20 million for each of those. CSVT certainly much more, but thanks for your active participation on those.
You bet.
Oh, sorry, was there a question, comment? Okay, the next on the agenda is our item F. It's our normal work program, staff activity report update for folks. Begins on page 31. Some of these things will be reported on a little bit later in the agenda, so I won't dwell on them. You had a chance to click on any of the links. There's a lot of resources shared there as well for those of you that have the electronic in front of you or looked at that in advance of the meeting. I'll mention on the fiscal year 24-25 work program what we adopted back in November. We did upload that to PennDOT and it was circulated to Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration. There's one slight modification. We had to insert a Title VI ADA non-discrimination statement up front that wasn't initially in there. We took that measure, got it re-uploaded in PennDOT system, so I think we'll be good. We'll get those approvals coming online. And then July 1st is when that work program takes effect. But we'll be gearing up right away in the summer. So if you have ideas, if there's studies you want to see pursued, safety, intersection, interchange, corridor studies, bike ped, whatever the case may be, we can look at those as we start to develop the 2025 to 2027 work program. Another kind of normal, carryover. If there's new things that are emerging within your counties or locations, let us know. But in the summer months, we'll start to develop that new CPWP, and we'll be doing outreach with all of you for ideas, recommendations you have. And then late fall, we'll be adopting that most likely at the last meeting of the year for the MPO. Tip update we'll cover later on. It's a big item obviously for this year. On page 32, I'll mention the coordinated transit plan update. We're working with the Gannett Planning Consulting Team and Rockland Planning. On that, they've held stakeholder interviews with a number of different organizations and advocates and human service agencies within the region. So those have been productive. There's a survey, online survey being developed to learn more from riders and targeted populations for that coordinated transit plan. And so there'll also be like little case studies or narratives on certain individuals and their experiences, so kind of more personalized for that. So we're glad to see that continuing on. And then there'll be a nice story map piece to present that and a nice visual element for that coordinated transit plan that we haven't had in the past, the typical PDF model. So that's advancing. We'll report more in the future as there's more draft elements to be reviewed and considered. The bottom of page 32 is some later breaking news. The greenhouse gas performance measures. I think we're well accustomed to the safety performance measures that we've been working on, the highway and bridge performance measures, and then the system reliability performance measures. But there's new rulemaking that was put together for the greenhouse gas performance measures that we'd have to track and follow and report on. Some states had joined together and it had filed a lawsuit on that, and then eventually federal court, district court in Texas ruled that Federal Highway Administration didn't have authority for this rulemaking and for these measures. So we're kind of gearing down the path of getting performance measures adopted, but for the time being, that's on hold due to the federal court case and the ruling. So if it returns in the future, we can make sure we're sharing the information and follow what we need to as an MPO with the planning regulations. But for now, that is tabled. Page 33 of your packet in the staff report. Just wanted to note here on the long-range transportation plan, we've kicked that off because you have to do so 30 months ahead of the expiration of the long-range plan. So scoping and mile markers and getting with the Michael Baker consultant team for some special assistance that they could offer us for public involvement and outreach, and also some technical analysis. So there's work occurring, and we'll work with y'all and a steering committee to be established to help guide that next long-range plan update. So more to come in the future. Page 34, we have the NEVI section there, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program, and came out after the packet was shared, but the round 1A approvals were just awarded and announced. I'll put the link here in the chat. You can download the press release from PennDOT, just came out. There was one project within the MPO region in Columbia County that was included on there. And the round 1B, I think, will be opening up sometime in the near future. So those are for the charging stations, high-speed charging stations. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, the round 1B is actually open now simultaneously with the announcement of the round 1A to fill in the remaining gaps.
So thank you.
And if anyone signed up for on the NEVI site, they actually just sent out the announcement and the announcement for the awards and the announcement for the round 1B. So if you want to be linked up to that, visit the website and you can sign up for those NEVI announcements.
Great, thank you. And as staff, we had responded. There was a survey of all planning partners about charging stations, what kind of planning processes are underway. And since we have the EV charging stations implementation plan, we were kind of prepared, ready for that. So it was pretty quick. We responded to that instantaneously and got that input entered for PennDOT as they're doing a statewide look and evaluation of the planning partners and what they're doing on the charging stations front. Our early program, also a little bit newer, toward the bottom of page 34. I can put that link in the chat here then as well. That those are open for the pre-applications. Get the exact dates here. The official application window is June 1st through June 30th. Those of you who are familiar with the automated red light enforcement safety grants. But the requirement now is for a pre-application or a scoping form to be submitted. Those are due by April 30th, so not too far off here. And then there's a feedback loop, so the districts will review those and comment and provide feedback to any of the potential sponsors working on those RLE grants within the region. But so shorter deadline, April 30th, and then the actual application window will be for the month of June. And page 35, the multimodal fund applications, just wanted to highlight that again, that the CFA DCD multimodal were announced, 8 applications from the region were selected, or no, sorry, our PennDOT multimodal was there on that page, and comments that Kristen did with her review are included in your packet on the PennDOT multimodal side. If any of you at the county level have input or further direction on those, feel free to let us know things you'd like to be entered into them. And then the comments are due, Kristen, what date?
May.
So we'll get those in well in advance.
There were 7 in the region, 2 in Union County, 1 in Northumberland, 2 in Clinton, and 2 in Juniata.
Kristen, PennDOT Connects, the municipal outreach and peer exchange, the District 2 session was held the end of March on the 25th. The District 3 session is May 29th. So if any of you are interested, please click that link there. You can register for that session. You hear a lot of great updates on PennDOT Connects and assistance available through that. Also on funding programs as well that are in existence, and some options for the technical assistance units through PennDOT Connects, whether they be to visit with you on site or if there's some just dialogue and technical assistance over email or phone as well. So that session for District 3 will be May 29th again. On the transportation system and operations capital funding initiative projects, since our last meeting in January, approval came on for the Interstate 80 Integrated Corridor Management Project. So great job by District 2 staff in preparing those applications. And we were able to submit, get those in, and that was selected from the statewide pot for Interstate 80 for a little over $1 million. So glad to see that coming out of that capital funding program. Nearing completion of the staff report on page 37. Wanted to highlight we were able to have an MPO member orientation. We had 3 new members that were appointed recently, and so we held that session here and covered a lot of materials, and we know that's a lot. Bob, thank you for being with us, and Randy Karshner may have called in as well from Columbia County. And we're always available, like we shared there. If things come up and you have questions or concerns about, want to learn more, but we were glad to be able to offer that back in the early part of March. And on the trail demand story map, Bryce will give an update on the active transportation committee front, but wanted to mention that Dr. Michelle Byler was submitting an article to the Transportation Research Board about our first round of the COUNT program, what's been learned and found, the process used. And she's also going to be presenting that as a poster session down in Philadelphia at an Institute of Transportation Engineers conference. So we're glad to see that interest and kind of getting things out there and publicized. Bryce is doing a great job with the story map and now has those counters in Clinton County. And it's been helpful for Clinton County as they're looking at different grants and other just reporting and tracking on the usage of the Bold Eagle Valley Trail. And the other units are on the Lock Haven City Riverwalk. The one step we took was to acquire 2 even more sophisticated counters from what's known as Eco Counter, and those are automatic. You don't have to go out in the field and do manual downloads. You can see the data and the summaries and the charts online through their software live, and there's a lot of kind of validation checks and things that are available through that. So all that to say, if you have candidates, locations you really want to see counted, let us know. We had that crop before that we had identified, but we're open to any suggestions. Yeah, Sean?
Could you share, shoot me an email with which model the Eco Counter you're getting?
Sure.
Because we have one, and then after 10 years it finally died. We need to replace it.
The bucket, okay.
Yeah, so it might be good to be consistent in what the MPO is doing.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, we're doing the Pyro Evo, but I'll send you the fact sheet
Okay.
specs on that.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're excited to offer that program. It's been a nice value, and certainly as folks are looking at maintenance of their facilities, their trails and bicycle pedestrian facilities, or pursuing different funding applications, it helps to have measurable, quantifiable data. So we're glad to have that. And finally, page 38, I'll just highlight a couple of LTAP things. If Don wants to share more, feel free. Our spring newsletter was issued, had near 40% openings, and a lot of people clicked on the links there, so we're glad to see that magnitude. Bryce and our intern are developing some interactive online maps for LTAP that we'll put out there, nice more visual, and to track the performance on that. How people are using the classes and the tech assist, and what just level of participation across the entire nine county area there is from the municipalities. And our Penn College training, the special set aside of our LTAP funds that we do in June, will be the equipment operator training. I think the roster is pretty good, but if you know public works crews that are having a lot of newer folks join, and that'd be helpful for them to get the practical hands-on experience, feel free to let us know. At Penn College facility in Montgomery. And then chainsaw safety, the July should be August. The date now is in August. Offer the chainsaw safety, again, classroom, but then go out in the field for proper use and the safe operation of chainsaws. And a road crew survey we had issued back in early March, had over 50 responses. So we can kind of look at that with the earlier baseline data and target some of our efforts for LTAP as well. Don, anything additional on the LTAP side of things?
Just to mention that we're up to 9 or 10 in-person classes this spring. And if anybody has any questions about that or wants to promote that at any municipalities, we're certainly open for more. That traditionally tails off in the summer, but picks up again back in the fall. So we are looking for additional places that haven't hosted classes yet to try to work with them.
Those were the staff reporting narrative items. Again, page 39 is the PennDOT multimodal project comments that we have so far to enter into PennDOT site and provide as part of the review and evaluation of them. If you're close to any of those, or you know what the applicants are working on, or if there are things you think we should reflect additionally there, feel free to let us know on any of those applications that are in. Then on the TA status side of things, page 42, the only remaining project from the 2018 statewide round is the North Branch Canal Trail Levee Top Trail Project in Danville Borough. And right now, the estimate is a July 2025 let. There are some things, I don't know if you're aware, Bob, with the levee and the floodway, I guess, and so some of the design might need to be altered a little bit for that. Are you familiar with?
A little bit. Are we in danger of running out of the funding timeline? I mean, it's been several years now.
Right. I've not heard anything. You showed progress, and sometimes these other factors, when there's ratings of the levees and stuff, that's outside of your control. And Aaron, Chris hasn't shared anything with me, so I think it's okay. And hopefully the estimate is still approximate to what the awarded funds were. But I think you're okay. So no news is good news as far as I know right now.
Thank you.
And then on page 43 were the newer TA set-aside projects. We already had a little bit of discussion, Mark and Eric and I, about the Bald Eagle Valley Trail, but that is proceeding and should be let this year for that phase 5 project in Clinton County. And then the Market Street City of Sunbury project has estimated let date of early next year. So any questions, discussion on any of those projects and staff level updates? The others are kind of more by reference, as we have access to the highway occupancy permit submissions, and those either counties or local governments aren't registered in the system. That's our way to get those out in front of you for those HOPs and traffic impact studies and scoping forms that are being submitted into the department for review. Anything, Mr. You wanted to update Kristen or Bryce from the staff report level?
No, I don't believe so, but if you do have any questions on the HOP documentation or the TIS, component, please let us know. We can get you any documentation that you might need if you're not registered in the system.
Great, thank you all very much. We're up to an action item again here now, item G, to discuss draft 2025 tip and approval to advertise that for comments. So, Kristen, please.
Sure, so in your packet is, I believe, two documents. One is the at-a-glance chart and the summary, and then the other is the information about what type of documentation we'll be uploading to the PennDOT system once that is, once we go through the public comment period. The draft 2025-2028 TIP includes 260 projects for a total of $521 million. 85 of those are new projects, including roadway, bridge, and safety projects, and then we have 168 carryover projects. Most of those are bridge and roadway projects, but we do have some safety projects and 2 carryover TA set aside. There's 7 line item projects and almost $150 million of the projects. The total cost on the TIP is still for the CSVT project that's ongoing. What we would be doing is the comment period starting April 19th, running through May 20th. And we have a public meeting scheduled at the Union County Government Center for May 6th. That would start at 6 p.m. and it will be a hybrid option to accommodate both in-person and virtual participation. And then once the comment period is over, we would compile the public comments and respond to any as necessary. And then the draft tip would be considered at the June 14th MPO meeting. This tip would take effect on October 1st, and then we would be good to go on the tip until 2026. Just for reference, we will be distributing the packets of the tip the week of April 15th in advance of the public comment period beginning on the 19th. So we will be stopping, Bryce or I will probably be stopping by at your county planning offices to provide you with that packet for public review in case anyone does want to see a hard copy of it. The information will also be uploaded to our website as well, but still want to see a hard copy. Will also be located at various libraries throughout the counties and transit offices. So Bryce or I will probably be paying you a visit in 2 weeks to let those at your offices for anyone in the public that might want to look at them. So unless there are any questions, we would like to see a motion to approve advertising the draft tip for public comment.
Moved. Seconded.
Thank you, Sean and Jim. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Anything additional?
Unless anyone has any questions, I don't think so. Go, Mark.
Can I
Yeah,
just add a comment?
Yeah.
Eric brought it to my attention, looking at page 53, and Brad's looking at it right now. For Mifflin and Juniata counties appear to not have any roadway projects. There is a reserve line item going into the 2025 TIP that will be $2 million within the Clinton, Mifflin, Juniata area that can be added towards roadway projects. And we intend to add that towards roadway projects per year moving forward. So it may appear as though there are no roadway, but there is a line item built in for that interest. So great, just wanted to point that
So
out.
which page are you looking at, Mark?
53.
Of the packet?
Yeah,
The bar chart?
The bar chart, yes.
Oh, those are, the gray is the amount, and then the CSVT, we just kind of had that stack to show.
The one below that.
Oh,
Yeah. And blue is to identify.
okay, for the new project, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your investment. You know, there's a lot goes into each tip update, and all your coordination and input is so valuable throughout. So thanks for everything you've done. And then as we get the materials out, you know, on the website, public notices and interested parties, feel free to forward those to anybody else in your network. You know, we try to go pretty broad, and then comments that come in, you know, we'll compile those and get, you know, appropriate responses together. If we need to check with anybody, that's where respond to those, we'll do so, make sure we have the most accurate information and the best response. I think last time we had 5 or 6 public comments during the comment period. So hopefully we'll see some engagement that way again. Thanks, Kristen. We are now up to item H. That's the draft complete streets policy. We've been talking about development of that and the other pieces that Gannett Fleming's been working on for us. And I know Michelle had joined earlier, Brummer. So Michelle, if you're able to give us an update, background, and briefing on the complete streets policy, the related materials in the packet.
Sure, Steve. Thanks for the opportunity to be here and share. Are you seeing my screen? I put together a slide with kind of the cover pages of the 4 documents that comprise the complete streets policy package. Could you confirm?
Thank you.
Fantastic. I have all of 2 slides, so this won't be long or too terribly detailed because you've got the draft documents in your packet there. Our complete streets policy that we developed for SEDA COG is sort of the primary document, and that's the first one that you see, page 56 in your packet. And that came as a result of some research that we conducted looking for other best practices among what I would call peer MPOs or peer counties, peer regions. So that background research is documented in our research report, longer than what you have as your deliverable policy here, 7 pages. The policy addresses the goals, the principles, the shalls, and the shoulds. As we've presented it here, it talks about the checklist and the exception forms that are also in your packet as the sort of tools that go along with this for the very tangible implementation of a complete streets policy. The policy also outlines some performance measures and some evaluation and sort of renewal and revisiting of the policy over time. 7-page document there. The checklist is for TIP projects. We had some discussion about how broadly this policy should be applied, and staff felt very strongly that it should be focused on TIP projects. I believe they're open to giving some guidance on other projects that maybe aren't programmed on the TIP, but those wouldn't need to be compliant with this policy. The checklist is a form of a series of prompts that asks for existing conditions and a project's proposed complete streets elements or sort of adaptations of infrastructure, additions of infrastructure to provide a more all users sort of project asset facility as the outcome of whatever that project is. That is a 5-page document. The first page here, as illustrated, is kind of some instructions and some very general information. And then there's like 2 or 3 pages of those sort of prompts and responses, very checklist format. And then the last page is really more for sort of notes and comments and those sorts of things. The exception form would be for a TIP project that the project sponsor felt was not, didn't need to go through the checklist process, and we in the policy talk about the conditions or the project types where the exception would apply, but would still need to be documented. And then the research report, as I've already discussed. So all of those were in your packet. Perhaps you've had a chance to look at them in advance. If not, we certainly have time for a review and comment before the June meeting. I did want to ask if there are any questions about these documents today, or if there were any comments that I could take note of as we work on ongoing, willing to take some revisions here, or at least keep a log of comments to consider.
Okay, so that you flip it through in the room, that begins on page 56, the policy. Thanks for all your hard work on this, Michelle, and our round of edits that we were giving. And we wanted to get this out now at the April meeting and then adopt hopefully in June. So give you all plenty of time to digest this, come back with questions, comments. We're open to certainly setting up any additional dialogue and phone calls you may need to have to review and evaluate it. So please give us your honest feedback and what you like, you don't like, what you think it should be revised. We're trying to make sure we're making, wise use of the increasing safe and accessible transportation options funding, and also to be, very consistent with the National Complete Streets Coalition puts out as examples and models. So that was somewhat led into our efforts here. Mark, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, kind of. Michelle, I really like the Complete Streets checklist. It ties directly into our PennDOT Connects documentation, and is some of the first conversations that we have with local municipalities and county planners on a future project. So that builds right into that, and it shows that a local municipality that has a complete checklist is prepared and ready to answer those questions and to resolve those concerns. So, good work. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Steve, I did want to also let the MPO board members know you've asked us to, following this meeting, share the package with Trish Meek at Central Office, PennDOT's Bike Ped Coordinator, and Sam Pearson at the Downtown Center and her work for walkable communities, walkable downtowns, et cetera. And there may be others that the board wishes to suggest or that we consider, so we can include them in this, what we have open. We haven't defined it as a 60-day kind of review window, but in the coming weeks with time for us to make any final revisions and hopefully bring this back in June. So if there are suggestions, please mention today or get them to staff so that we can make that distribution on your behalf.
Great. Thank you, Michelle.
Sure.
Thanks for the additional research report. It's nice to kind of have that compiled as part of this as well. Different links and reference documents and examples. And this is the first of the policies that I've seen for an MPO within the region. You have a few, municipal level ones, and certainly in southeastern PA, south central, southwestern PA. There's a lot of complete streets policy, but it's new territory for us of getting this officially in place. So thanks for your hard work on it.
Sure.
Question on the exception, just looking at the decision at the end, it comes down to, it looks like the MPO director, which I'm assuming that's you, and then the county voting member. What if there's a tie between those two?
I think the way we word that, Michelle, is it needs to be unanimous, correct? For the exception
Yes.
form?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it went to the
And if
board
that's
or-
not clearly worded, that was at least what we discussed, so we can clarify that if need be.
And the criteria.
Sean, we do hope those occasions would be few and far between, but they could happen.
Really?
The exceptions that we did identify in here are directly from the Complete Streets Policy Framework that Smart Growth America put out. We've been trying to maximize the number of points we could potentially get from that framework and their evaluation criteria, so that we made the best of this. And so we utilized those exceptions that were directly from that policy framework. So it should be, we did have the conversation about what to do if there's a tie, but it should be pretty straightforward as to what qualifies as an exception.
I guess the other question is, how are we gonna educate municipalities? Because a lot of these rural municipalities don't care about complete streets. And they're probably not gonna be real thrilled about this. Just being honest.
It's kind of bringing them along and sharing the information. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to change their mindset or their approach, but have the compilation of what's existing, what's proposed, and feed that back. To the ones that are more active will be engaged up front, but for others, hopefully for their digestion and consideration for other things they're looking at in the future.
I have a question, Steve. Was the MPO allocated the 2.5% from the bipartisan infrastructure law for this?
Yes, yep, that was a change. There's accounting that you have to do just for these funds as part of the planning dollars that come to the MPOs and RPOs.
So there's funding available for like a streetscape project or a safety improvement project through the MPO?
Well, these are just the planning dollars, and then there's the various grant programs that would be for the capital or the infrastructure projects. But yeah, for this, it's more the planning scene, planning and policy development.
Okay, thank you.
But through like the PennDOT Connects we were discussing earlier, there's some supplemental studies that could look a little bit more like we had recently, the PennDOT Connects Hogan Boulevard study that Michelle's team worked on, and then Michael Baker had worked on the Route 522 corridor study. So you can get more specific, recommendations come through that process through PennDOT Connects, or those free technical assistance offerings can help a little bit there as well. But yeah, the funds that we receive in MPO, it's for the policy development, data mapping, and things of that nature.
Steve, perhaps as a follow-on there, as well as to Sean's question about education, the checklist was developed to be an implementation tool for the policy, but as a standalone, I mean, it could be used for other things. It could be used as municipality X is interested in some sort of corridor study. Oh, let's take a look at the checklist as we scope that out in terms of things to be looked at, et cetera. Like it could be a reference for that, which would in and of itself be an education to those stakeholders. And county planning directors and others might, point to that checklist to local leaders and public works, roadmasters, et cetera, when it's relevant as a source of information, not necessarily as something they have to fill out, but it's, hey, have you thought about, bikes and peds and the plane sector, et cetera? The MPO's checklist might just give you a list of things to think about, like use it as that kind of reference, maybe sort of a building block over time. You get more buy-in, support, and build understanding across the region.
Any other
All
questions?
right, well, please direct any comments.
Steve, I would echo Mark's words about the Connects program. I think that has really been a successful thing for these rural municipalities. I mean, Sean, I know what you're saying. They don't care, they don't have a clue, but I think the more that PennDOT is out there, the more people are realizing what it really takes to bring a project together. So I look at this as a positive thing. I do.
Thank you, Brad. And then Michelle, you had some other updates on the current slide you wanted to present as well?
Sure, and it kind of rolls into the next agenda item because we capture the MPO strategic plan in there. But before we leave, work order 3 around complete streets. So an additional task we're working on just is that update to the bike ped needs matrix. We've been working through county coordination on that. Spoke with Lincoln and in Snyder County and with Justin Scavery in Northumberland County last month. And are making contacts with the next counties to sort of set up those conversations. And so we will get around to everyone in the next few weeks. I have to finish that up in terms of the first round of calls, certainly here in April, and then maybe sharing some documents for review before we compile the product, and then produce an online map as the product of that particular task in that work order. So just wanted to say that's moving along. The MPO strategic plan, we're expecting to have a full draft assembled. I mean, we've worked on the parts, we've gotten your input. We're real comfortable with the sort of principles that have been laid out in the elements. This one has sat just a little on the middle burner. I won't say the back burner, but we are in the process of pulling that fully together so that we can put a draft cover-to-cover draft together for May and give you an opportunity for review and comment on that. Our other work order that's active, Steve kind of covered a little bit earlier, the local coordinated transit plan, and I think you've mentioned much of what I had listed there about the stakeholders who have been engaged. And I won't say that's completed because those conversations remain open as we look at goals and recommendations. We'll be circling back, but folks are aware that we're working on this update and sharing updated needs and relevant stories with us to help make the case for service needs. That public surveys under development and will be issued later this spring. These typical users' needs and routes to be profiled. This was kind of a novel idea rather than having charts and tables that talk about needs and demands, making it a little more story typed by creating these profiles of an 85-year-old person who needs, where do they need to go, how often do they need to go, and how do they get their assistance for travel versus another user type, maybe in a different age category or has different destination needs, et cetera. And create those as little profiles that we can use as part of the storytelling for this plan. This plan is due by our work order by the fall. So I think we'll see a first draft midsummer and then probably something a little more complete or at least further vetted coming out to you late summer, early fall. It's just an estimate at this point as we're still kind of midpoint in the plan process here. If you have questions, happy to field them or share with staff and we'll get your response quickly.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Again, anything triggers your mind as you're reviewing the complete streets policy related documents, feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email, and then if there's any revisions, we'll make sure we get those out probably late May, early June at the latest, so that you have time to consider those before we would look to adopt the new complete streets policy in June. There's no further discussion. We're up to item J now on the agenda, electric vehicle charging station study update. And Don's going to provide information on that, and then Brian can supplement as needed. Brian Funkhauser.
Yeah, I'll just give a brief recap and then turn it over to Brian. But this project continues to move forward, and we want to wrap it up by the end of the fiscal year as well, at the end of June. The big event that we had, literally event, was, since we met last time, was held on the 22nd of February. We had an EV event at Penn College, which was about half education on electric vehicles. We had participation from various other groups other than ourselves, and from Michael Baker, who led it. And we had a pretty well-attended group for that part, and then we went across the street to Penn College's automotive engineering training facility, where there were a number of EVs that people could look at and talk to the students, talk to the instructors who are involved in training students there. So I think it went really well. Where we are right now as a follow-up is two places. We're contacting people who have indicated some firm interest in locating new EV charging stations in their jurisdiction. And Michael Baker is continuing to look at things geographically, looking at gaps that existing out there, not related to the PennDOT corridors that have come out with the various rounds so far, 1 and 1A, but in some other areas in the MPO region. So in May, we will be doing a couple things. We'll be coming back together and we'll be doing some site visits to various locations for people that have been identified as best prospects. Michael Baker will be talking to us about their findings on the gaps, and we'll probably be having a steering committee meeting in May as well. We haven't had one of those for a while, so we want to do that before the June MPO meeting, when we'll be presenting the final results for it too. Before I give it to Brian for some additional comments, I just wanted to say that literally every day there are new articles and stories coming out of the media about EVs. I just saw one a couple of days ago that compared to this time last year, there are 45% more EVs registered in Pennsylvania than there was at this time last year. So things are growing, and it's important to be preparing for that. Brian, I'll let you pick up from there if you'd like to make more comments.
All right, thanks, Don, and good morning, everyone. Just a a couple extra things just to piggyback on some of the items that Dawn shared. We are continuing to work with area destinations on potential siting of EV charging stations. I think from here, Geisinger and Bucknell probably head the list, and there's other leads that we're seeking out in order to gauge their interest. And we do believe that a core area for this, a core focus area would be Route 11 and 15 between Selinsgrove and Lewisburg. In addition to Bucknell and Geisinger, some other areas that we're looking at include the city of Lock Haven, for example. They've expressed an interest, and we're looking to do some follow-ups there. Others include the town of Bloomsburg, the Bloomsburg Fairgrounds. We've talked about Knoebels, the amusement resort there. One of the commissioners at Snyder County has talked about there's a new parking lot there by the courthouse in Middleburg. So there's been some interest expressed for that particular site. And there's others as well. Lewisburg Borough, the Susquehanna Valley Visitors Bureau is another one, EVAN, and a couple others. But again, there's quite a list of different destinations that we're looking at that we want to reach out to and engage their potential interest for siting, this kind of infrastructure. Dawn mentioned the gap analysis that we're doing. We are looking at a gap analysis to look at other potential areas or gaps in the region that need to be filled. And as part of this, this will include an equity analysis as well as a gap analysis. So from here, one of the next major steps will be the actual siting evaluations, and we'll be working with our engineers on that effort. We're going to be developing criteria to prioritize future EV infrastructure installations for, what is the optimal placement in order to maximize future public use. And so we'll be out on the ground looking at on the ground conditions for recommended EV charging site installations, just to ensure the feasibility of these prioritized areas. Dawn mentioned that we are going to be reconvening our steering committee, and we do have a date established of May 7th for our next project steering committee. So we'll be looking forward to that meeting, bringing the steering committee members up to speed on our activities and getting some future direction from them on next steps.
Great, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Don. And we did have the link in the staff report section for the WNEP story of the event that Don highlighted at Penn College. We're glad to have their participation and their filming and the reporting they had done. Sometimes it can be difficult to get a lot of traction with things that we're working on, but that was a nice, marquee event, and we appreciate the coverage that WNEP had done. So you feel free to check out that if you want to see the footage and some of the interviews with Don and the other speakers from that day. Any questions for Don or Brian on the EV study and implementation plan? Thank you all. Next is Bryce is giving us some verbal updates on the Active Transportation Committee and the work there.
So Steve covered pretty much all the updates that I had from the agenda item F. But just to reiterate, Dr. Byler's article and poster, we'll share that when that's available. And if you have any trails that you want us to try and encounters on, let us know. Other small updates mentioned in the past are MSATC website and connections map viewer. They have been on the back burner, so I hope to get those completed by the end of the summer. Just working on those in my free time. So it's that, and then the last one would be that our next full committee meeting is May 15th, so 2 to 4 p.m. So same time as the usual. If you'd like to attend it, let me know. We'll get you added to the list.
And if you're reading along the Complete Streets policy, that was kind of a touch point to share what we're evaluating as part of those checklists and evaluations with the Active Transportation Committee. So there's that strong linkage to the members on that group, and they can weigh in and offer some comments as well. Any other questions for Bryce on the Active Transportation Committee? If not, member forum, I'll just touch briefly a couple items here. They're in your packet on page 86. And then please, anyone from the floor, in the room or online for updates you want to share with your organizations and activities, feel free to do so. First, page 86, the stop hopper microtransit service that Rapid Transit has done in the 3 zones operating from Sealands Grove to Sunbury, Milton to Lewisburg, and Danville to Bloomsburg. Happy to report that the Degenstein Foundation grant was received as kind of a bridge to allow this local match to be applied to that project over the next year. There'll still be efforts needed for stable funding in the future going forward, but we were kind of sounding the call to action on that in the past couple meetings and the questions that come out of the group here and some separate planning groups, but we're very pleased to see the Degenstein award that 55,000 or so local match to keep that moving forward. It's been having a sizable impact. A lot of folks are making trips at a real affordable rate that they'd have really difficulty making otherwise. So we wanted to share that news. At the top there of the interest items.
Steve, if we can ask a quick question. We've been trying to stay involved in that discussion too. Is there a concern that the funding for that project had to come from taxing bodies? And if so, is it an issue that the funding is coming from the Degenstein Foundation?
Yeah, that solution will be kind of sorted through, and Rich Farr had tons of experience in this and where he has other operations and match. And so conversations with local governments will be ongoing to see about the actual then source of that. But for the time being, it seems everything's okay.
Good. Thank you.
Page 87, just note a couple notices of funding opportunity here, Safe Streets and Roads for All. We have those details. There's some staggered deadlines depending on which aspect you're going for, the planning or demonstration implementation grants. Feel free to check those out. I think they've simplified the application process a little bit. So pleased with that outcome. The Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program, those of you in the county planning directors, if you have comments on that, maybe you want to hold them till the meeting afterward, and that's going to be on the agenda for discussion. The USDOT's multimodal discretionary grant program also out there. That was a big one in the past for us with the rural carve-out funds going for the CSVT project, but that's out there for major regionally significant type projects. We hit on the NEVI round 1A, and I have the press release in the chat. And thanks, Nathan, that the 1B is open now as well. And I also put the RLE grant in the chat as well if you want to check out that page. Those of you following along online. Walkworks on page 89. Those applications were due the end of March for the active transportation plans. And we were glad to see, I think, at least 2 that we are aware of were being submitted from within the MPO region, City of Lock Haven and Coltmont Borough. So we have a consistency letter in there, which is typical request that comes to us for applications for the City of Lock Haven's Abby Roberts, the city planner there, checked in with us and shared more details of them on that. And I know Steve Gibson was connected at the county as well. So if those approvals come online, we'll make sure to share that and hopefully get the active transportation plans developed locally. And those were the items I wanted to hit from that interest item. So anything that anybody wants to share updates on or just general commentary or questions, we will open it up now at this time.
Hi, this is Jeff from Pennsylvania Silk again. I had to get off and go on to another call. Is there any update as far as the Lewistown Amtrak station?
I've not heard anything recently on that from the prior updates I gave you from Angela Watson. And I don't know, Jim, if anything's been circulating locally on that as well.
I haven't heard anything either.
But there was interest in, from your active transportation plan, the biking piece and connections, and I think those are being pursued, Jeff, at least for accommodations to allow easier walking and biking to the facilities, but for the actual ADA upgrades that were gonna occur at the station itself, I don't have any more recent updates.
Okay, thanks.
I can follow up with Angela to see if there's any more current update for it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's an older facility, and there's other kind of like ownership responsibilities for the station, but I know that was certainly of interest to get those accommodations in place for accessing and the platforms and the restrooms and everything. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Any other updates or questions folks would like to share?
I'll jump in here. I just wanted to say, you know, looking down through the agenda and all the information that's provided, you stole a lot of what I was going to update on, which is great to see that all that information's in there on the grant opportunities, and the focus on the NEVI program, that there's a significant amount of funding still available there. The only other thing I wanted to add was we do have the Transportation Advisory Committee and the State Transportation Commission meetings that are coming up here in the future. Those are accessible online, that you can listen into. The STC meeting is actually going to be up in Erie, so I don't expect anyone to be traveling up there for those meetings. But the TAC meeting is next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And the STC meeting is on May 15th at 10 o'clock also. And I can share the link with Steve, and I can send it out to everyone. That way, if you want to listen in to see what's going on statewide, plans and programs, you can listen in there. That's all.
Thank you, Nathan. Anything additional? Again, just the reference items here, those consistency letters for the city of Lock Haven, and then also, like we had covered earlier, the congressional solicitations for designated projects. One we were involved with, I know certainly Sean, the planning process in the meetings, East Buffalo Township Streetscape project for Route 45, I requested a consistency letter as well to go in through that process. So if there's more to report, we'll follow up on those ones. And then the PennDOT Connects was from a recent steering committee. If you want to learn more about the outreach program for what's coming up this spring and just the other resources and tools that are available for PennDOT Connects, there's pretty good information in that PowerPoint slide printout for you as well. And there's still sufficient units in play as far as I know. If any municipalities want to request that, specialized PennDOT Connects assistance. And there's also now a campaign to look at from the 12-year program comments that were submitted. There are good items from that to select or follow up with those interested stakeholders on what they were proposing to have some PennDOT Connects evaluation done. So that's being looked at from reporting on the STC comments for every 12-year program update. So I'm glad to see that kind of attention. If there is nothing else, we'll be able to finish up a little bit early, and those who stay for the county planning directors have a little time to refresh and recharge for that as well. So if there's nothing further, we'll look for a motion to adjourn and reconvene in June. Thank you, Greg and Sean, for the second. We'll see you all June 14th with some more action items, and appreciate all your involvement here today. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.